Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Today on the podcast, we're doing something a little different. My guest is fellow podcaster and coach, Jason Oates. Jason is the host of the popular Whistle and a Clipboard podcast, where he interviews successful sports coaches to learn their best practices. We're running today's episode as a joint podcast, so this will be a lot of fun. If you've ever wondered what coaches and business leaders can learn from one another, this is your episode. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
So, Clipboard community, we're here today for a joint podcast with John Rennie. He's a leadership expert and also a business owner, entrepreneur. So, John, for your audience, I'm a podcaster. I'm a coach. I'm not just a sports coach, but I'm also a coach for coaches and a coach for people. So I've started a new CoachOates.com. It's very in the early stages, but I'm just looking to. I want to help people get better. And I know we're in a crazy time that things keep changing. And so I thought it'd be a great time for us to sit down together and have a chat about leadership, self-leadership, and being a leader of a group. So that's kind of, for me. Now, introduce yourself too.
Yeah, I'm John Rennie, and I'm founder and CEO of a manufacturing company based in North Carolina. We make products for electric utilities, but I also write a lot about leadership. Recently wrote a book called I Have the Watch. It's a leadership book. I'm a former submariner. Did 5 years on the submarine during the Cold War, then 22 years in corporate America, leading factories around the East Coast, 8 different factories, and now I have my own business. So, and I have a podcast called Deep Leadership that I also run. So I'm more of the business leader and then leadership writer, and that sort of thing. So
awesome. So yeah, you were one of my buddies was on a steel sub, and I know we talked about this before, but I got to have a ride on a sub, and it was an really interesting time. And I hit my head on the tubes 3 times in a 24-hour period. So
that is not unusual, and it's HY80 steel. It's very hard, and there's 2 times in my life I've actually seen stars, and both times I had hit my head on the steel of a submarine, and it is not forgiving at all.
No, I think my friend took me in a certain way several times just to see me bang my head. So yeah, it was fun. Mm-hmm. So let's start this podcast out. It's for coaches and the leaders that follow you, but let's define a leader. What is a leader to you?
Yeah, in my book, I define leadership is 3 things, right? It's people, it's motivation, and a goal. It's the role of a leader is to motivate a group of people to accomplish a goal. That's the most simple definition, most basic definition. It comes from a guy named Kevin Cruz who wrote that, and it's the one that I like the most because most people forget about those 3 elements. They forget about people, the goal, and motivation, right? So people get promoted in corporate America, and they go in their office and they do emails or they go on conference calls and they forget about motivating people towards a goal. And so everything I write about tries to bring people back to that basic thing. Leadership is a lot more than that, but I think the basic elements we always have to come back to. And the way I look at it, and I wrote it in my book, is that I put people. I put people at the top of what we have a leadership triangle, I call it. I put people at the top, and I put goal, and I have motivation down below, and I put the leader in the center. The leader is sort of the hub, if you will, making sure to coordinate those 3 elements in the organization. So that's the way I look at it. There's a lot more to it. There's been 15,000 books written on leadership. So leadership is a lot more complicated than that, but boiled down, it's really that simple.
So one of my favorite things is there's sophistication and simplification. And the more simple we can make things, the more sophisticated we actually are. So I love that definition of leadership. And I was thinking about this because I knew I was going to ask you, and then I was going to ask myself the same question. And yeah, it's like when you read all these 15,000 books or a lot of them, you get to this point, like, what really is a leader? Like, what is a leader? And I think a leader first knows where they want to go, and they try to get there, and they do that. Like, that's like, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anyone else. So the first thing a leader is they've led themselves very well. And it just kind of depends on what that looks like for them. But then the second part of it is, and I think you touched on it first, it's more about the people that are around us. And lots of people use the term empower, but I use the term emancipate. Because I think we need to emancipate the leader within each individual. And now we have the best company, we have the best team, we have the best whatever. So if we as the head can then think about our people first, and how do we help them become their best, which is that emancipate, like them getting the best out of themselves, help them lead themselves first. Now our teams will have that amazing ability to adjust and get to the best outcome for us at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably one of the things, over the years I've realized is, and I've seen it in action, is that the collective wisdom of a team is much better than that of one leader. So if you can, engage and empower and emancipate, I like that word, and let people be free to bring not just their backs and arms and hands to work, but bring in their brains to work, and all their creativity and all their experiences and all their ideas. If they bring their whole self to work, how much more can you accomplish than just, the ideas of one person and one thought process? So I think that's really, really important. So I think, everything I talk about, it's being able to just bring that power back to the team and let them feel like they're a contributing member to the organization.
So when we talk about leadership models, you've been in the military, you've been a military leader. I know coaches around the world love the military leadership model, but what is and now you're a business owner and you worked in the factories and led that way. So what kind of, is there a model, quote unquote, that you have that you think is the best for leadership?
Yeah, I don't know if I've had that question posed on me many times, and I've read so many leadership books that I probably should have a really good answer for that. And the best way and you'll like this because you're a coach, but the best way I describe my leadership style is a player coach. In other words, I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty, and it's probably not the best thing to do as a leader, but in a small business that I run, I have my steel toe boots right by my desk, and if we're busy, I just throw my steel toe boots on. I go out there and I put my safety glasses on. I work alongside my team, and I'm willing. I won't tell my people to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. So I'm willing to dive in, help them, and be there with them. So I think making sure that you can coach, so you can coach, but also you're willing to dive in and help out. And I've always been that way in my career, even in the Navy. But I think, people, when you say you're a military leader, they have a perception about what that's like. They think military is a very top-down, hierarchical organization where everything flows from the top down, that, it's all about rank, and it's not about your merit. But, the truth of the matter is it's a lot different than that. And especially on a submarine where, you're in a tight confines, everybody's, the name of my next book is called All in the Same Boat, because we literally were all in the same boat. Nobody had any special privileges. You ate the same food. You wore the same uniform. when we were deployed for 80 days, everybody was deployed for 80 days. You didn't get special treatment. And so I think that we were at the same level as the people we led. When it was miserable, we were all miserable. And I see in corporate America sometimes where the bosses are elevated. They've got the nice office with the air conditioning, and they've got, they're getting big bonus checks, and their life is very comfortable, where the people that work for that person, may be struggling financially or what have you. So we don't get on the same level as our people sometimes. So, I don't know if that helps a little bit, but I think maybe because I was on a submarine, it maybe formed a very unique foundation for my leadership style, which is we're all in it together. We just have different roles. My role as a leader is slightly different than your role as a machinery operator, but we still have a mission to accomplish.
No, I love that. And I was thinking we might have a little disagreement on this. Honestly, just because and it's great for coaches to hear what you just explained, right? Because I'm so tired of coaches saying that they're going to war with their players. Can we please get rid of that analogy? Nobody's going to die. It's a freaking game. We get to go play a game and we get to have fun. So yeah, we want to compete. But I also think that coaches expect, I've asked this question of other coaches, it's all right, so what do you when you say that they need to take coaching, right? They need to be open to coaching. What does that really mean? I think the best coaches, the best leaders have a dialogue. So the leadership isn't about me telling you what to do. It's me figuring out what you know and helping you use that the best to help us get to where we want to go. Right. Yeah, it's not, I love the fact that you have your boots by your desk, because like you just said, for me, I'm not willing to ask my players. I'm not willing to ask my children in my house. I'm not willing to ask anybody that supposedly I'm ahead of in the hierarchy thing to do anything I wouldn't do. Right. And I think that if more leaders took that approach, businesses and teams would be so much better off. And it's so funny, if I say business or if I say team, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think a coach and a leader is a great analogy. I think, the one thing, you and I have a mutual friend, Coach Brew, and in his book, Seeds of Success, he said, if you look up in the dictionary, coach and teacher, it actually has the same definition. And if you look up leader, it's also very similar. So I think a teacher, a coach, a leader, they're very, very closely related. And, I always use the analogy. The one thing about a coach that's very different than maybe a leader, but I think we can all learn from it, is that a coach doesn't step on the field. You've got to get the team. They've got to know what to do. They've got to be gelled, but you can't step on the field. And I think sometimes in business, we think as a leader that we should step on the field and we should be making all the decisions and making all the calls. But the truth of the matter is we've got to follow what coaches do, and we've got to take a step off the field and let our team let the great people that work for us do what they do best.
I'm sitting here I'm shaking my head a little bit, and you can probably see it, but I think coaches want to step on the field too much, right?
Yeah.
If you watch a game, there's lots of coaches that think they need to be yelling and screaming and instructing and all this stuff during the game. Well, all we're doing is we're taking our players' focus away from what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so and it's one of those things that the people outside look at a coach, and if they're not standing up, yelling and screaming and pointing and doing something, then they think they're not a good coach, which is completely opposite. The best coaches, and I was lucky enough to be on a Zoom call with the Florida State softball coaches.
Oh, wow.
And the question was asked of her was, what's your favorite memory of when they won the national title in 2018? And she said, the best part about that is that we as a coaching staff could have sat in the stands and our players would have done exactly the same. Like we had passed on everything we could and our players had taken over. Yeah. And as a leader and as a coach, like that's what I want.
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to go sit in the stands and let them do it. I want to have emancipated their excellence. I want to have given them the keys to the car. I want to let them drive the boat. And me just sit back. And if they have a question or something, then come ask. But basically, the more that I give them the ability to do how they know and what to do, the better off everything's going to be.
And I don't know if it sits with you as a coach, but I would say me as a business leader, when I see a team of people that get it, and then they're, all the coaching and teaching, and suddenly they all get it, and they're performing at a very high level with very little touch points by myself, I'm as happy as I can ever be. That is almost the goal of a leader, is to create that team that doesn't need you anymore. And when you do that, that's the ultimate achievement as a leader. I am most satisfied when I have a team of people that are they're killing it. They're accomplishing the goals. They're motivated. And it's just, wow, I don't even know why I'm here. I can step away and this thing runs on its own. And you're there for, like you just said, conflict resolution. When you have conflicting priorities, what do I do? Well, you have to have a leader that's going to help, resolve conflict and resolve, because even on a team, in a company, you could have two people who know the goal, right, but have different ideas on how to get there. And sometimes those ideas conflict. And so that's why, a leader is there to help make sure that you don't have too much of that, so that you can focus on the mission and the goal. So I think there's a role for a leader, but there's a role for leaders, but if you can get to the point where your team is, motivated and accomplishing things without much guidance, then it's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the ultimate spot for me as a coach. And I tell my players, and I tell the parents of the players that I coach, like, I would ultimately love to sit in the stands and watch the game with you, and not have to, I've imparted all my wisdom. I've imparted everything. If they need me, then they can call me over. But so we're talking about leadership, but we're in this crazy, uncertain time, I guess is the best way to put it, with what's going on. Because it's April of 2020, and daily things change. And, you and I are both in North Carolina. You're about 30 minutes away from me, 20 minutes or so. But we're at stay at home, social distance, and kind of maintain that 6 feet. But we all see people if you go to the grocery store, I still go to the grocery store. You see people in different areas of protection, I guess, self-protection, however you want to put it. So, like, how as leaders can we help our people, help our followers, help those, make the most sense of this time, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think, I use this analogy. On a ship, when the seas are calm and everything's easy, just about anybody can have the deck and the con. They can run the boat, right? But when, we're in some rough seas, you've got a storm coming through, maybe you're in heavy traffic, shipping lanes or what have you. You want to have your most experienced sailor at the helm. Your captain has to take over. And I think we are in that situation now where we have storms all around us. We don't know what's going to happen day in and day out. This is the time when leaders have to step up, when they have to lead their teams well. And what does that mean? Well, it means connecting with people and making sure, everybody is going through a major shift right now. So, if you're a hospital worker, you're working long shifts potentially. If you're a teacher, you're teaching from home. If you're in a restaurant employee, you might be laid off, or you're now doing, curbside business. Like myself, we're a manufacturing business making products for a critical industry like the electrical industry, we're still working. But wherever you're at, everybody is feeling unsettled right now. And so this is the time to really connect with your people, making sure they have everything they need. Make sure that, just simple things like this. I could buy commercially available toilet paper and also hand sanitizer and hand soap. So I've been buying that in bulk and then giving it to my employees. Say, here, I know it's hard to get right now. Just take what you need. But the thing is, we've got to meet the needs of our people right now, and we've got to make sure they have what they need to be successful in this time, because the world shifted, right? And everybody's outside their comfort zone, and everybody reacts differently to that. So just like you were talking about, you see, when I go out in North Carolina, it's, various shades of protection, right? Some people are completely wrapped up, some people are nothing. But my point is that everybody's dealing with this crisis differently. So we as leaders have to connect with our people and make sure they have what they need, what's bothering them the most. One example of one employee, his wife is a nurse, and she had to shift her schedule around. So we made his hours more flexible during this time. And that's what you've got to do, is to be able to lead each person differently, make sure they have what they need personally during this time.
No, I think that's a great thing that you're doing, but also just like individually, I don't think... I think coaches, and I had this conversation with another coach the other day, we think team first and player second. Whereas I think business and team-wise, we need to think player first and team second, or player within the team structure, but still it's player first. I think those are where the best teams, the best businesses come from, is when the individual knows that they are valued and that they're cared for. And then once that if you can do that as a leader to each person you lead, you're going to get an amazing effort from them. You're going to get the information that they have to be able to, because I think that's another thing that we forget as leaders. Like, we forget that the people that we're leading, they have the information that we need to make the best decisions. And we have to figure out how to allow them to give us that information. Right. There's got to be that open communication, not this top down, like, do what I say thing. It's more like, we need to lead from questions, not lead from answers. And especially now, because nobody, so we were talking before I hit record, but my wife is a medical professional. She's a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I get the opportunity to read those articles. I get the opportunity to see the percentages of death rates in different age groups and all that other stuff in those medical journals. And, it's a crazy world, but I don't know how crazy. I think we're making it more crazy. I think lots of people are so worried because it's an unknown, right? And we're letting this fear of this unknown control us a lot. And I'm not saying run around naked, but but also we're all there's definitely age group wise, there's differences that this virus has, that it does. So, depending upon which age group you're in, maybe, take care of yourself accordingly. But then also us as leaders, we need to look at our people and be like, hey, you're 65, I still want you to come to work, but we're going to let you work from home. You're 25, come in and get down on the floor and do this stuff. And maybe the guy that was 65 was actually operating a machine, and the guy that was 25 was in the office. So they have to flip roles. And how could they, I just made this up, but how could they flip roles and be able to, help the company continue on, but they're also still providing good service to you, or good service that we can keep them employed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just example, like I mentioned, we're still running our factory right now, but we've made available gloves and masks for anybody who wants to wear them. So we mandated social distancing. We're doing cleanup, after every shift, we're, wiping everything down with Lysol and what have you. But we've also made masks and gloves available, and some people are wearing them and some people aren't. And we're not mandating it, but we make it available. So based on your comfort level or where you feel you need to be doing, people are doing it. And I think it's, and nobody even looks twice at, we have a morning meeting and there's a few people with masks and a few people without. It's just, that's who we are. And I think everybody is, and actually the people who are wearing masks are not mad at the people who aren't, and the people who, so we just sort of like, okay, we're going to make it available. It's not mandatory, but based on your feelings, you have that available to you. So, and I think it's, and so, yeah, if you just look at my team, everybody's doing something slightly different, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, I think we need to like take a look at that, a little step back and look at that too, because as a coach, like there's so many coaches that have like this rule book for their teams, and it's 700 rules that you're supposed to follow, right? And it gets so complicated, and as a leader, sometimes you pigeonhole yourself. But on the other side of it, it's like, how do they know all of these rules? Like going back to what I said at the beginning, how do you simplify to be sophisticated? And I think that's what you're doing with your employees, is like, you've simplified it. Like, here it is. Now you do accordingly what you feel needs to be done, right? Yeah. For yourself.
Yeah. You know, what you were just talking about reminds me of John Brubaker's book, again, going back to it, Seeds of Success, and his mentor, his coaching mentor. When he first became an assistant coach, college lacrosse coach, he asked for the playbook, and his mentor handed him an old dusty binder, and it was, a couple inches thick, and inside of it was a bunch of blank pages. And he said, and then Coach Brew was trying to figure out, okay, well, what do we do in this? We've got 30 seconds left. We've got the ball back, tied game in lacrosse. Like, what's your play? And he's like, my play is simple. I get the ball to my best player and get everyone else out of the way. And so, it's funny because we try to make things complex, but in some cases, the best answer is a simple solution, right? And everybody knowing that simple solution.
Yeah, it's way easier than we make it a lot of times.
Yeah,
a lot of times. So I know you've been doing some leadership webinars, and so like I think you talked about, there's a couple things that in this point in time where we need to make sure that we're open to, maybe is the best way to put it. So you want to share some of those, and then we'll chat about them?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the one that we start out with when I'm talking about how to lead in a crisis, the first thing is just to pause, to slow down. Because I think we as leaders, coaches, we want to take action. We're action oriented, right? We want to get things done. And so our first response to, well, there's a crisis, there's a new normal, is we want to jump into action. And so part of what we have to do is pause. We have to slow down. We have to look at what's going on in our company, in the environment, our industry, and then how are we going to react to it? And during that pause time, it's actually start talking to people in the industry. Make sure you have a mentor, coach, or someone you can talk to think through how you're going to respond to this crisis as an organization, as a leader. So first one I talk about is pausing. Second thing is pivoting. So we all have to take our organizations and pivot it slightly, right? So a great example of this is, the t-shirt company Life is Good, right? They make these great t-shirts, and their message is to spread a message of positivity, right? And so Corona crisis comes, everybody's sequestered at home, living the quarantine life. So what do? They're still spreading a positive message, but if you go on their website, all of their t-shirts and signage and all that is around quarantine life. And it's, it's golden retrievers on a Zoom call, and it's all this fun, lively, positive message, but it's all now around the COVID crisis. So they've made a pivot to their strategy, but they have kept their vision. So we as an organization, every organization has to think about the pivot they have to make. So keeping true to their vision, but maybe pivoting. So if you have a restaurant, for example, and you can't have dine-in service, but you've shifted to a to-go, or curbside service, but you have a vision to make the best stake in Raleigh, right? You need to keep to that vision of making that, that product that is what you've set out to do. So pivoting, but also keeping consistent with your vision. That's important. And the other side I say is to, as I say, is position yourself as a crisis leader. And that's what we were talking about earlier. So crisis leadership means more one-on-one, more personal connections with people and making sure that they have what they need to be successful. So as I say, is the time for long emails is over. This is not a time for long emails and dissertations. This is time for face-to-face. I know sometimes it's virtual, but this is time for face-to-face communication. How do you do that? Well, in my case, for example, I have over 100 salesmen in the field, right? How do I communicate with them? Well, one thing I do is record messages. I'll just do a video like this, in 2-minute video. Here's what we're doing. Here's what's going on. So they see my face. They see how I'm reacting to it, the crisis, and they know what their mission is. What to do. So make sure you do a lot more face-to-face and a lot less emails during this time. So I've been saying that. The other thing I say is, put your own mask on first. So take care of yourself personally. So I know for me, when this thing first hit, I was stressed out a little bit, trying to figure out how my company was going to react to this, how we were going to have enough money to get through. We weren't sure if we were going to have to shut down. But I started eating. That's my thing. When I panic, I like comfort food, right? Give me some mac and cheese and some meatloaf and I'm happy, right? So I started gaining weight right away. And, and so I had to just say, whoa, what am I doing? Go back to a structured diet, make sure I'm doing my exercise, make sure I'm taking care of myself physically, spiritually, and mentally, so that I can be there for my people because they need me to be strong, right? They're looking for me to be that shelter in the storm. So we can't, you can't lose it right now as a leader. You've got to hold it together because your people are depending on you. And the last thing I talk about is just press on. You've got to just keep moving on and recognize that this too will pass, right? And you've just got to stay consistent. Angela Duckworth talks about that in her book, Grit. It's one of my favorite books, but she talks about the people who are most successful and who can carry out things during the toughest times are the ones that combine passion and persistence. So that combination of passion and persistence, she calls grit. So that you're so motivated towards your goal that you're willing to get through anything to be able to get there. So I think we as leaders have to look to try to, tap into that grit that we have in us, right? We have a passion for our business. We have a passion for our team. So we've got to use that to drive through this tough time and make sure that we can press on through it. So those are the things I've been talking about as I've been talking to leaders about crisis leadership and managing during a crisis.
No, that's awesome. I think one of the biggest things is the pause, right?
Yeah.
Just it's so amazing. And I'm looking out my window and it's kind of cloudy today, but I don't know if you've noticed the sky on the horizon. It's not gray anymore. It's the same color blue that it is up top.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that pause in everybody that's allowed the crap that's in the air to get rid of itself, to move out of the way.
Right.
So in the pause, that's where the gold comes from, is in that pause, is that allowing the crap to get out of the way.
Yeah.
So that now you have blue skies everywhere and you can see things clearly. I don't know if you've looked up, and I don't know if people listening today have looked up, but take a little moment to look up at the sky and look at the horizon and notice like the difference from where it was before. Now, maybe if you live in the mountains or someplace where it's extremely rural and there's not a lot of pollution, it might still look the same, but I'm going to bet you that it's still clearer than it was. Because I've noticed that amazingly. Like I take my dogs for walks daily now, and I've noticed, like, I did it before anyway, but I've noticed there's so many more people out walking around. People are like waving, saying hi. People are just there's still a couple crazy heads out there that are driving like maniacs, but for the majority, most people have kind of slowed down. They're taking it slower. And I'm hoping that maybe people will pause a little bit longer once things, quote unquote, get back to normal, and we don't go back to that running around like a chicken with our heads cut off because we're supposed to look busy. Maybe we can think about in this time we pivot to a place where it's more enjoyable. Like I hope, like I enjoy what I do. I know you enjoy what you do, but I know there's a lot of people out there that don't. Like this is a great time to take that moment to pivot to a place where, I mean, if you're sitting at home and you're uncertain about if you're going to have a coaching job, or if you're sitting at home and you're uncertain if you're going to have a job in a corporate spot where you've been when this is done, like, I think it's a great time to take a pause and just take an inventory and see, am I doing what I want to do? Is this something that I enjoy? And if not, take the pivot, like change. Like right now is the best time. Like people don't see that. And that's what I want to share. Like it's an amazing time to be able to make a change.
I agree 100%. That's a great way to look at it. And I think it's also looking at the world is you can look at it two ways, half empty or half full, right? And when a crisis happens, you can say, you can worry about what you've lost, or you can think about what you just gained. And I think you're saying the same thing, which is this may be the perfect opportunity to make the shift that you've been thinking about, the thing that's been haunting you and just, you wake up in the morning thinking about, I should write a book, or I should start teaching, or I really wanted to do this. Well, guess what? You've now got a little bit of free time. I wanted to learn a second language. All right, there you go. Right. So, I mean, you have this great opportunity right now to do maybe something that you've been thinking about that's been nagging you. It's something in the back of your head that's been nagging you that you've always wanted to do. This may be the great time to do it.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Deep Leadership is brought to you by Strikeforce Energy. Strikeforce Energy is a veteran-owned company founded by a Navy SEAL, and their products are all made in the USA. Strikeforce Energy is a liquid flavor pack that you can add into any beverage. It has 0 calories, 0 carbs, and 0 sugar. Each pack contains 80 milligrams of caffeine. Strikeforce Energy is offering a discount to all the listeners of Deep Leadership. Go to strikeforceenergy.com and enter the discount code I have the watch, one word, for a 20% discount on every order. Deep Leadership is also brought to you by my Amazon best-selling book, I Have the Watch, Becoming a Leader Worth Following. This book is filled with 23 short stories on how you can become a more effective leader. It's super easy to read, and most people finish it in less than 2 hours. Go to ihavethewatch.com and click the large orange button for signed copies. Enter the discount code I Have the Watch, one word, at checkout for 20% off your order, and domestic shipping is always free.
I saw a tweet on Twitter, and it made me laugh because it was like the travel softball family's yard pre-COVID, and then the post-travel softball team's yard, right? And the first one, it's like weeds covered. You can't even see the house. And the second one is like pristine yard and all this stuff. And it's really been like, I laugh. And it made me, because my wife and I used to have a garden, and I should say she had a garden. I just get the beds ready, and then she does the rest of the stuff. But like, so now we're back to the garden thing, and I bought I'm a general contractor too, for your audience. So I own a construction company. I brought the dump trailer over and cleaned out the yard, and it completely filled it up. I still got to get to the garage, but it's just one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, there's all these things. Like I coach my daughter's 16U travel softball team, and I love it to death. I miss those girls. But, it's that ability to be able to be at home, take the pause, and then do the things that like I've been wanting to do, but haven't done just because I've been there coaching them. And that's, I love it. I also love the fact that being able to be here and just kind of,
Yeah. No, it's interesting because for me, I have 2 college age boys and they both came home, and my wife and I had finally been, we're empty nesters. Both boys are in college. We had a quiet life with our 2 golden retrievers and her and I. That's it, right? Life was good. And then suddenly these 2 adult men come back into my house, right? And they're eating all our food. They're taking all our stuff. We're bumping into each other, because we had already sort of downsized our home into our sort of retirement home. And now I've got these 2 knuckleheads, in and around everything. But, I was thinking the other day, over the last 10 years, I built a home gym. So I have my own home gym and my sons and I are working out together. And I didn't expect that I would be even around them right now. So here I am around my boys in the gym, laughing, talking about life. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm the luckiest guy on this planet right now I'm lucky enough that I had built a home gym. I'm lucky enough that my boys are home with me and I'm enjoying this moment right now. And, I'm not even thinking anything negative about this COVID crisis. I'm thinking what a wonderful blessing that I didn't expect right now, And it just take that pause, enjoy the moment.
And there's so many more moments that we get to enjoy right now, especially with our families. My 3 kids are at home. They're not in college yet, but I don't know if they're enjoying it. But it's just that ability to be able to have those conversations, those walks. I'm sure they don't enjoy me busting them about doing their schoolwork because they've gone back to virtual school.
Right.
But it's, they've got AP classes and I want them to have those college credits so I don't have to pay for them in college.
Right.
But, so they're still doing their work and that kind of stuff. And then I've got a 7th grader too. And he's actually doing a pretty good job of staying on top of his schoolwork, so, cause he could take the pass and be fine, and it doesn't really matter, but he's still going and staying involved and doing what he needs to do. So it's been a fun time. My dogs, like your dogs, probably love the fact that we're at home more.
Yeah.
I
see a little look in their eyes like, when are you leaving? I want to take a nap. It's never quiet around here. So.
True.
Yeah.
So, John, we've talked a little bit, but what do you think leaders today, what as a leadership community, as a coaching community, what do you think our people need from us the most today, where we are?
So, I talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of, they're looking for us to be a shelter in the storm, right? Or a lighthouse, a guide. Probably a lighthouse is a better example. There's a storm. They want to know where to look, where to go, how to act, right? So lighthouse is a great analogy because, for years, the Navy ships, you can look to a lighthouse and okay, I've got a bearing over here. I got a bearing over here. All right, I'm safe from the rocks right now. So I think we need to be that for our people. And how do we do that? One is to stay calm, right? So, you might feel panic inside. I know I did first when this first hit and I started to realize this was going to affect my industry. You tend to panic a little bit. And so I think we've got to get control. And that's why that pause is really important. Get control of our own emotions so that we can be calm during the crisis. But the other side of it is that we've got to be authentic with our people. So we have to be able to say what we know, what we don't know. And it's okay to say, I don't know. When someone says, well, what's going to happen if this happens? And you say, I really don't know right now. But I will tell you as soon as I know, have more clarity, I'm going to let you know. So it's okay to be to not have all the answers. But I think the worst thing you can do is either panic. You don't want to do that because then everyone else will panic. And the other thing you don't want to do is pretend like you have all the answers because everyone knows you don't. And I think it's going to create more concern in your organization if you start pretending like you have all the answers. So I think it's calm but also authentic communication during this time.
Yeah, I'm going to agree 100% with the authentic. I think that's what we're missing the most right now as a society, is that authentic leader, the person that can come out and, one, say, I don't know, and two, say, this is what I know. Right. Here's what I know. Here's what I've seen. Here's the different things. Now, here's the information. I don't, and then as the leader, be like, I don't, like, for me, this is what it means. But that might not be what it means for you. And that's okay. Right? Because everybody, like, we're looking at the different PPE that people have on. And that's the information that they receive, and how they're perceiving it is then how they're reacting to it. And so if we as leaders can say, like, hey, look, best case scenario, like for our travel team, like we send an email out, and just so it was blanket so that it could be private coming back. But hey, like, parents, what is your comfort level with your daughter playing and when? Like, what kind of parameters do you have as a family for your player to be able to, quote unquote, I'm going to use a return to play. And, some parents were like, let's play today. Some parents are like, I have no idea. This scares they didn't say it this way, but this is what they really said. They said, I have no idea what's going on. This scares the shit out of me. They're not playing until I'm comfortable. Right. So those are the two ends of the spectrum, but we had both, and we had all in between. But what we said to them is like, hey, look, we want to know so that we can kind of plan ahead, but your daughter is still a part of our team no matter what. Like, this is our team, and you have your opinions and you have your thoughts, but we want to be able to plan, but we also want you to know that we're still a team. And I think I haven't seen enough of that from leaders, right? Like, where's your feeling as my employee? Where's your feelings, like, where you are? And yeah, you're still on my team. I may have to furlough you. I may have to do things to keep the business going so that when this is all said and done, there's a spot for you to come back to. But we want you back. But then also, like, what's your comfort level for being here? Because I think it would be a bad thing for us as a leader or a business person to put a person in a situation where they were at a game, or they were at the factory and they didn't want to be there. Like, they didn't feel comfortable. We're not going to get the best out of them.
Right. No.
But it takes that transparency. It takes that communication. It takes that openness, that willingness to have those difficult conversations.
Yeah. And it's every day too. You've got to keep up with it every day, because, one thing I've said too is, as a leader, we have to be informed. So you kind of have to know what's going on in the world, but don't spend too much time watching the news, because, recognize that, social media and the news, there's a lot of sensationalism to that, and you can get yourself wrapped around that and get all hot and bothered and upset. You see one piece of news and it's spun a certain way, and the next thing you know, you're panicking. So it's good to just stay informed, but stay away from the 24/7 news cycle, right? And because I think it can drive you crazy. I found a couple of 3 different websites I'm using to track the COVID crisis, so I can see what's happening in North Carolina, in our counties. I can see kind of see how it's evolving. But it's not, there's no spin, it's just data. So I can kind of make the decisions myself, and then just kind of paying attention to what's happening with the governor and the president, what have you. But I think getting involved with online debates on, whether we should wear masks or not, or whether we should go to the beach or not, that's not helpful. It's not helpful for your team. Just you focus on what they need, make sure you're informed, but, don't get too wrapped up in it that you're emotionally attached to what's happening every presidential news conference, right? Because you're going to have a stressful day, a stressful life. So
I laugh because I don't even watch them. I watched one of them and I just went, what? And then left. So like I said, I look at those medical journals, the articles and those kind of things. And still, I'm looking at them for the data, like what data is. And there's some that are like 5%, and then there's some that are like 0.5%. So like where like this is supposedly data driven. Like, so
yeah.
Anyway.
This is what, this is what we call in the military fog of war, right? You don't really know. You don't know. I mean, and one thing they trained us in the military is to be able to operate and make decisions and be decisive with unknowns out there. And so trying to take whatever data you have, assess the risks, and then make decisions and move forward. And you may not have all the information. And most times as leaders and as coaches, we don't have all the information, right? So we have to be able to make decisions and make the call. And then we self-correct, right? So we make a decision, like, oh, shoot, that wasn't the right one. And we correct it along the way. And that's the best way to lead. And so we got to do our best with what information we have. But I think it's much more healthy if you don't get too wrapped up in the political side of the news or the sensational side of the news. I think it's just not worth it, not healthy.
No, I think maybe the best piece of wisdom so far was what you just said, was that we need to make a decision and then look at the data as outcome and then adjust, right? If we can do that, and let all the rest of the stuff go away and just let it. I'm waving my hands by my head, like you're running through a forest. Like all those things are just trees running by until you find like that outcome part, and then go, okay, that was that decision. This is what happened. Then let's do this instead, or that was right. Let's do it again.
Right.
And I think if we can do that as leaders and have that transparency with our followers, that our teams, our businesses will be in a fine spot. And when whatever normal is returns. But I always my kids go, Dad, you're not normal. And I'm like, well, what is normal?
Yeah,
to have a definition, right? There isn't yes, I'm crazy. The heck, I get that. But so I'm less normal than anyone else, but that's okay.
I don't think there's anything I don't think we think there is a normal. I don't think there is a normal. So everybody's unique so.
There might be an average, but anyway, who knows? Well, John, I don't know if you've got anything else. If you got some questions for me, shoot. If not, we'll call it a podcast. And I hope that. Anyway, before I get from that, go ahead. You got anything? I think we touched on a lot of stuff. I think the one thing was interesting that the coach versus a leader right now. So coaches, you're not able to coach your team right now, but you still can stay connected. And I think that's really powerful. And so whereas a business maybe right now, a lot of people are stressed out because maybe they've had to let people go, or, their revenue streams have gone and what have you. But I think as a coach, you have a really unique situation as well. And maybe talk to me a little bit about some things you've seen the coaches doing well during this time where their players can't be together training, they can't be together having that connection. So have you seen some best practices from coaches during this time? I think that would be interesting. I'll tell you some of the things we've done. We've done team Zoom calls, right? Okay. Where all the girls are on the Zoom, and I'm having some different former college players and coaches come in and chat with the girls, and then they just like to stay on and be goofy, which I love. So a 30-minute call lasts an hour and a half, but they're just being goofy, and we're talking with them. So it's a softball team. We've got some different technology. One of them's a blast sensor they can put on into their bat, and I can see all of their swings that they take. So if they're taking swings off tee, or if they're hitting into a net, I get to see all those, and then we can discuss those that way. So there is the ability to actually still have some instruction.
Nice. Well, that's really good. Yeah. I had no idea. Yeah. So there's, I think a live Zoom with an individual player, you can do kind of the same thing, but it's one of those things that's just experiment. That's what I told another coach the other day. It was just experiment, right? And don't look at it as the players don't know it's an experiment, right? They don't know if the outcome is a pass or a fail. They don't know if the outcome is good or bad. Only you yourself know of that
and it's just because of what you like, all right, I'm going to try this experiment. And then you made the parameters for what was good and what was bad. Well, if you don't tell the player that, they don't know.
Right.
Right. So my biggest thing is experiment, try different things. Like, and if it doesn't work, well, don't do it again. Or if it doesn't work, try to do it a little bit different way. But I think that that's the biggest thing as a coach is you mentioned the connection. Stay connected, stay involved, stay, like I have text chats individually with them. I have a group text chat. If they want to call me, some of them call. And, you know, we have those group Zoom calls. So it's like, just experiment, try different things. Like, you know, don't be inviting, not obtrusive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
Right. And invite them to share, invite them to be a part, invite them to come, but don't force yourself in. So I think that's kind of maybe the biggest thing. And then however that looks for you, however that looks for what you think works. And again, experiment. That's the biggest word right now, because we haven't been in this place before. We haven't had to coach over the internet. We haven't had to lead over the internet. We haven't had to, you know, that kind of stuff. So
there's no textbook. There is no textbook for what's happening right now. That's why I like what you just said, experiment, because I think I just realized that everything I've been doing for the past 6 weeks has been experimental, right? I've never done some of this stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is a great time. There is no textbook. There is no right or wrong, right? Test what works. See, you know, if it works, great, keep it going. If not, you know, try something else. And yeah, that's really good. I like that.
And maybe that's what we'll take away as leaders, because I think we look at textbooks. Like there's one Coca-Cola, right?
Right.
But there's so many people that try to be Coca-Cola. Well, it doesn't work to be Coca-Cola. Right. But if you experiment, you might be the next, you know, I don't know the name of your company, sorry. But, you know, you might be the next, you know, John Rennie's electrical company.
Right. Peak demand. You could be peak demand.
Yeah. Right. And then people are like, oh, how did you become peak demand? Well, I experimented.
We did. Yeah.
Right. I experimented. And then we didn't try to be Coke. We didn't try to be Progress Energy. We didn't try to be, I don't know, other switch manufacturers, but you know what I'm getting at. We didn't try to be them.
Yeah.
We tried to be ourselves. And I think it would be so much more beneficial for everybody if we stopped trying to be someone else and experiment and be ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you know, the people that have been the most successful, the companies that have been the most successful, the ones that have been unique and not trying to be someone else. So, yeah, I think that's your value add, right? You're unique and different than everyone else.
You got to do it your way. If you try to do it someone else's way, it doesn't work.
Not at all.
So you can take pointers and tips, but ultimately experiment, iterate.
Develop your own way. Yep.
Well, John, I've enjoyed the conversation. I hope that like my coaching community has taken from you a great leadership stuff. I hope your leadership community has taken some coaching things from me. I appreciate your time. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Jason, this has been really good. And I know that your ideas, your thoughts, and the discussion we've had back and forth is going to be really good for the folks that are listening into our leadership podcast. And so I think it's good. I think leaders and coaches, that we share a common bond together. And, you know, it's funny because I see leaders taking lessons from the sports side of things. And I see sports coaches taking, you know, cues from the business side of it, and both take cues from the military side of it. So I think all these things are interconnected. So I'm really thankful that we connected and we're able to put this together, because I think it's going to show some of the cross, ideas that happen between the different roles that we play.
So John, share where the Clipboard community can find you, email, if that's what, or anywhere like your podcast, all those things, where they can find you at.
Yeah. So my website is johnsrennie.com, and it's John with no H. And there you get all my links there. I run a podcast called deepleadershippodcast.com. You go to deepleadershippodcast.com to get to my podcast, and all the social links are on my website. So, and Jason, how about you? You want to shout out yours so we can connect with my audience?
Sure. If you live in the Raleigh area and you're looking for a construction project, you can go to fusioncontractors.com. We do residential and light commercial stuff. Just a plug for the construction. But so then there's whistleandclipboard.com. If you want to find me on Twitter, which is the social media place I live, it's Jason H. Oates, Oates. And then I've just recently started coachoates.com. It's a new website. And that's where I'm looking to coach coaches, but I'm also looking to coach leaders and help you guys become your best. That emancipate excellence. Like, that's what I'm looking to do. And I think this is a great time for people to pause and be able to take a look. And you know, we were talking about like the great companies, like the Walt Disney didn't have success without his brother. Steve Jobs didn't have success without Wozniak. There's always somebody else there that helps along, and I think we forget that. It's a lot easier to do it with someone rather than to try to do it alone. So if you're looking for that someone, I think I can help. So anyway.
That's great, Jason.
Plug for me.
Yeah, that's great, Jason. I'll put all those links in our show notes on our side of things.
Awesome. Well, John, have a great rest of your Sunday. Appreciate you hanging out, and look forward to more chats. And hopefully we can have some coffee, or I love to play golf, so we can go social distance on the golf course too.
Sounds good, Jason. I really appreciate it. It's been a great discussion. So thanks for putting this together.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this discussion with myself and Jason. Please go check out his podcast, his website. I think you'll find that you'll get another source, another place to get information that is a little different than what I produce. So go ahead and check those resources out. Well, that's it for today. So thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.